Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm just a quick update to brag about that I finished a book. So I did reading relays last night, and I got totally distracted because if you haven't been following the news, Israel has declared war on Hamas, and in prosecuting that war, they are bombing the Gaza Strip. They've bottled everybody up in the Gaza Strip. They're not allowing any food, water, humanitarian aid, anything in, with, I guess, millions of people in the Gaza Strip that are stuck there. And they are bombing this incredibly congested space, and it's one of the more heavily populated, densely populated areas in the world. They are trying to target Hamas somehow by dropping large explosive things in the middle of this area. I'm not sure how they imagine that is possible without killing large numbers of innocent people in the process. And there's humanitarian issues already with the Gaza Strip. So we're not talking about a community that has a lot of margin for being able to survive a siege. They don't have a lot of resources. A huge proportion of the people that live in that region are poor. They are unemployed. I guess one statistic I came across said that 6 out of 10 young people in the Gaza Strip are unemployed. This is not an area where they have a lot of extra stuff to survive without more coming in. They're totally dependent on Israel's goodwill, and it doesn't sound like Israel has any. And it's increasingly looking like an excuse for genocide, in my opinion. Hopefully this changes. Hopefully there's stuff going on behind the scenes and Israel isn't being quite as evil as they sound. But the images coming out of Gaza right now remind me very unpleasantly of images coming out of Ukraine last year. Only in the Ukraine, when Russia was bombing Mariupol to smithereens, Ukraine was the good guys, Russia was the bad guys, and everyone sided with Ukraine. Now, most coverage is only now starting to talk about, okay, is this an appropriate level of response for the initial attack by Hamas, not by all of the Palestinians as a group? Is this an appropriate response to this event? Or are there other more humane ways of approaching dealing with the threat that Hamas presented to Israel? I'm concerned that they're actually creating more future enemies because they are killing a lot of people who now know of Israel as the reason that their children, their spouse, their whole family, their whole homes and livelihoods, have been destroyed by it. Israel is setting themselves up for another round of the same back and forth violence that we've known all my life, certainly. So I am concerned. And definitely not getting as much focused reading done as I was hoping. So I actually finished American Pastoral while I was trying not to watch the war constantly. I have the live stream on in the background most of the time. I've been looking at live reports through the BBC and Al Jazeera and a few other sources that have live reporting on the ground and reliable war correspondence and good journalists that I trust. So it's always interesting having a front seat for things that are going to be in history books. This is right up there with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, in that it could theoretically change the trajectory of the future, at least for that region. And certainly could set some of the people in Israel up for being tried in the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity. That is something that's already been discussed in several interesting bits of coverage. So I was trying to stay away from books that even mentioned Judaism, just so that when I'm not watching the war, I can take a break. And of course, the book that I was closest to finishing is actually about a Jewish family in the United States. In American Pastoral, we're following the Lvov family. That the grandfather comes to the U.S., settles in New Jersey, starts a glove production. And he starts out just making gloves by hand himself, hires some employees eventually, and builds up this really successful company making beautiful leather gloves, the high-end, the sorts of things that Jackie Kennedy wore. So he hands the business down to his son, Lou Lvov, and Lou has grown up, knowing gloves and leather, and he was learning the business since he was a small child. So he lives and breathes gloves and doesn't really have much interest outside that. He's not really active in religion, so the fact that he's from a Jewish family, it was more of a salient feature for his parents than it is for him. They made him do all the stuff that Jewish kids are supposed to do, but it didn't really matter for him. This is important. He marries a girl from his hometown who ended up being Miss New Jersey. Beautiful girl. Maybe not the best companion for him, but their marriage doesn't seem all that bad, except that she's Catholic and he's Jewish. But neither one's really practicing the religion that they started out in. And they have one child, a girl named Meredith, or Mary, who goes a bit nuts. And the difference in religion, or, religious upbringing between the two parents is brought up as possibly what went wrong to cause their child to be so problematic. She ends up committing some crimes that they can't imagine that she did. They don't think it could possibly be her. She must be kidnapped or something. And so she's just at large for a long time. And all of this comes up when somebody wants to interview Mr. Lvov. And he admits to this interviewer that, he's still grieving over the loss of his daughter and trying to figure out what happened. And the book is a bit disjointed. You get what's going on. So far up to that interview, the time sense is nicely in order, and you can kind of figure out what's going on. And it starts getting jumbled after that. We get a lot of backstory that's just inserted randomly, and I found it increasingly confusing the further I got after that, about halfway through the book. And by the last section, called Paradise Lost, I I could see why some of the elements were in there, but I didn't really find it a coherent narrative, and it was boring. So, I don't know. I haven't decided what I would rate it quite yet. On Goodreads, it'll probably be a 4, just because I usually round up if it wasn't terrible. And there were parts that I liked. The writing was okay, except for that it wasn't coherent. I felt like some of the sections near the end were just bits that the author wrote them and didn't really want to leave them out, but didn't know how to fit them in the story, maybe? I don't know. So I would say about 3.5 stars, but probably 4 stars on Goodreads. I use a 10-point system on my spreadsheet, and I actually use 1 decimal place as well. So on my spreadsheet's ratings, it's probably going to be a 6 or a 6.5. And I really like having that range to play with. So I always find Goodreads frustrating because I'm a bit more precise. A 6.5 is different from a 6.7, and if you read 2 books and they're both kind of okay, that difference of 0.2 of a place indicates which one was better, even though they're both just kind of okay. Anyway, so that's what I've finished so far. I'm still working on Echoes in Time by Norton, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through Fatal Voyage by Reichs. It's gotten different. One of the body parts has turned out not to belong to anybody off the flight that they can tell. So now they have to figure out if there's somebody else missing in the area the plane came down in, and who this body part might belong to. And meanwhile, somebody is menacing Temperance Brennan, which happens a lot. I'm always surprised that she's surprised when she gets menaced, because it seems like every other story, somebody is, breaking into wherever she's staying or trying to kidnap her, but she's always taken by surprise, as if this has never happened to her before. And there are a few other scenes in this one that she has this one little interview scene where she's talking to a guy that's doing histology preparations on these samples, and she's asking all these questions that you can see that it's a device for the reader to be able to understand the science a little bit. So she asks the lab tech, hey, what are you doing? How does it work? And he explains it. And she's like, oh, it sounds like I'm back in Biochem 101. Temperance Brennan has the kind of degree that she should have done a lot more than just Biochem 101. So it's hard to believe that she doesn't know these basics about body decomposition and the basic chemistry involved. So as far as Reichs books, I'm not sure this is my favorite. But it's a fun distraction from the war, so I'm appreciating that. And I am probably going to do a lot more genre fiction this week, just because my brain doesn't want to do more serious literature. And now that I finished American Pastoral, I'm done with serious for a little while. Nice, happy murder mystery is so much easier to get into. So at least until Israel stops trying to annihilate the Palestinians, I will probably be reading genre fiction, and that will probably be the majority of the books I talk about for a while. Hope you guys are having a lovely evening and enjoying your books, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye, guys!